Listen, before I even get to the NBA talk, I wanted to know your thoughts because obviously you're from Queens, New York. You played at St. John's University. You saw and read about the recent struggles, them ultimately finding a successor to Chris Mullin, who stepped down, your former teammate who stepped down as head coach of the St. John's Red Storm. And now they've got Mike Anderson in as their new coach. Your thoughts real quick about that for a second. What are your thoughts about your alma mater?
Well, I was sorry to see Chris Mullin go, the greatest player in school history. I thought he did, obviously the way he closed out, did a very good job of bringing back the team to relevancy, making it to the NCAA tournament, looking like the future was going to be headed in the right direction. But I'm glad he did what was best for him. He's a brother for life. Pray for him and his family. And Mike Anderson, I don't know him personally, even though I got a chance to talk to him a couple of days ago for the first time. Seemed like a great guy. I watched his press conference, a lot of energy, enthusiasm. So I'm looking forward to big things. And obviously I'm going to be a St. John's guy to the day I die.
What do you think is going to happen with Chris Mullin? You think he's going to end up back in NBA circles?
I'm not sure. He's a guy that's proven. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a class act. He's a guy that works extremely hard. I witnessed it firsthand as a player, dreaming to become a pro. I wish him nothing but the best, and I'm sure, he's been succeeding his entire life. I'm sure it's going to work out whatever he decides.
Mark Jackson right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get right to this because you were in L.A. yesterday covering the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. What did you see, or did you see anything from the Golden State Warriors in this series that should give us all cause for concern as it pertains to whether or not they're going to be able to three-peat when you consider the fact that if they handle their business like we assume they will and beat the Clippers and the Rockets do what they're doing against the Jazz, that they will be playing the Rockets next? Any cause for an elevated level of concern now compared to what we saw from Houston and Golden State last year in the Western Conference Finals?
I don't think I've seen anything, witnessed anything from the Warriors aspect that would give me concern, other than the fact that they admittedly gave a game away, which allowed them to wake up and turn it on again. You can do that against teams that you're superior to. So I would say if I was nitpicking, the one concern I would have is if you do that against the Houston Rockets in the next round, it could spell trouble. But this is a team that Doc Rivers alluded to the fact how great they are defensively. And I don't think people give them enough credit for that. And the other thing is their competitive spirit collectively. These guys know when to get after it. They respond to adversity. I look at what the Houston Rockets are doing, and that would raise my level of concern. They're a great basketball team that is tied together defensively. Chris Paul is healthy, and James Harden is playing on a whole different level offensively.
Mark Jackson, are the Houston Rockets better this year than they were last year?
Yes, which is crazy to say because early on they certainly didn't look like it. But in fairness to them, health had something to do with it. They did a great job of acquiring guys that they could trust coming off the bench. I think Austin Rivers is a guy that has toughness. He's a very good defender that can score the basketball and take pressure off of Chris Paul and James Harden at times. They're healthy and whole, and I think last year's experience only makes you better when you have valuable playing experience. So I would say they're better, even though they didn't look like it earlier, but they're healthy and whole.
If that's the case, then why do you still sound so confident when it comes to the Warriors? Does that mean you believe the Warriors are better as well, or they're just the champions that have to be knocked off and you'll have to see it to believe it, that it could happen?
Yeah, I think that's it. They're the champions that have to be knocked off. You have to see it to believe it. I'm not going to sit there and say that they're better than last year. They were tied together. They were healthy. You miss out with DeMarcus Cousins, and everybody knew that they were going to be a better basketball team when you had a top five center in the league when healthy and whole. But missing him can make them better. Andrew Bogut has given them much needed depth at the center position. His high IQ, his ability to protect the rim, split action, his ability to pass the basketball is a weapon that they haven't had other than DeMarcus Cousins in the middle of that lineup. But this is a team that has incredible toughness and an incredible competitive spirit. and obviously three guys that can shoot the basketball as well as anybody we've seen in the history of this game.
Mark Jackson, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, we look at Draymond Green, for example. We look at him on the Golden State Warriors, and I'm sure you were fully aware. I don't recall whether or not you were doing the game that night, but during the season when he got into it with Kevin Durant right on the bench, the visiting bench, when they had played the Clippers, a lot of people looked at that and they said, you know what, that spells the beginning of the end of the Warriors as we know it. Did you get that impression watching that? And do you have the impression now that they're well beyond that and this is just a well-oiled machine that's been waiting all year for this moment to play these games that really, really matter?
I don't think they're well beyond it, and that's with respect to them. There's still junk going on. There was junk going on admittedly by them last year, but we underestimate their competitive drive, their commitment to winning and leaving it on the floor. For some reason, they have the DNA to put aside all the garbage, all the mess, all the frustration when they get between those lines and play for one another. That's what they have that's special. Everybody goes through it. Everybody has issues. Everybody's upset with a teammate every now and then. But they have the ability to throw it away and compete at an incredibly high level. And then when it's over with, whatever they have, it still lingers. And Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and everybody else will make a decision when free agency comes. So it's not like they don't have it, but they have the ability to step on the floor, ignore it, and be great in spite of it.
Last question on the Warriors. Do you think they should stay together? Do you think they will stay together as presently constructed?
I think you have a free agency for a reason. I do not think this team will be together next year. I don't think that the fun is as much as it's been in the past. So I think there will be a different looking team next year. And I think Kevin Durant is the guy that holds the key. And then when it comes time to free agency, if you're the Golden State Warriors, you do not mess with Klay Thompson. As soon as possible, 12:01, and I mean not 1 minute, but 1 second, you put an offer, a max deal on the table for Klay Thompson because he is absolutely essential to your success and what he's done for that franchise from day one. But Kevin Durant, outside of that, is going to be key.
Hey, Mark, am I crazy in believing that Klay Thompson should be their top priority because keeping the Splash Brothers together should be more important than keeping a player in Kevin Durant, who is obviously one of the top 3 players on the planet Earth, on your team? I actually think keeping Steph and Klay together is more important than anything specifically for the circumstances of the Golden State Warriors.
I'm not going to call you crazy. What I will say is that both of those are crucial. You have to make sure, because Klay Thompson takes, with all due respect, what he does defensively against elite point guards, where you can put him on them, have size and length, and the ability to contest shots and disrupt them. His game plan discipline defensively is one of the main reasons, if not the reason, that they're champions and considered a dynasty. And Kevin Durant, let's just say the second best player in the world, climbing the charts to be the best player in the world, you have to make sure you have him also. So if you're the Warriors, you have the luxury to be able to do both and make sure you're able to do it.
Mark Jackson right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Mark, let me transition to Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. What are you seeing from him? What are you seeing from them right now? They're down 3-1 to Portland. I'm seeing Damian Lillard's coming out party. I'm seeing him proving that he's a star in this league that deserves far more respect than he has been given. And I'm seeing a guy in Russell Westbrook that he's obviously mercurial. He's great as a talent, but in the same breath, can he lead this team? If he loses this series, it'll be the 3rd straight year since Kevin Durant left that he's gone home in the first round. How should we be looking at Russell Westbrook right now?
It's disappointing what not just Russell Westbrook, but the Thunder, what they're doing. Give the Portland Trailblazers a lot of credit. They were the 3 seed back-to-back years for a reason. They're extremely well coached. They have great leadership. They have an outstanding backcourt that's as good as anybody that they face, and that's with all due respect to Curry and Thompson, who is the best. But if I'm Lillard and McCollum, I feel like I can outplay them, or we can outplay them in a 7-game series. That being said, Russell Westbrook and the Thunder have to be more disciplined as a team, individually and collectively. That's always been the concern, not being disciplined offensively or defensively, because when you get into the playoffs, there's a price to pay when you're not disciplined. They haven't been disciplined, and they find themselves in a 3-1 hole because of it. They've got to be better, and it starts with their best players, meaning Westbrook and Paul George.
Off the court, or do you, as a former coach in the league, as a present analyst of the league, do you have or take any issue, or do you think we should, with Russell Westbrook and there's no comment or next questions, when it comes to reporter, whether it's a particular reporter or anybody, just the overall persona that he walks around carrying these days?
I don't have a problem with his persona, but I do have a problem with the next question lines. If you did it once, it's cute, and you're making a point to the reporter. We've all been there. But you cannot allow that to take place. And I point to leadership, whether it's Oklahoma City leadership, GM, ownership, coaching, players, or it's NBA leadership. Somebody's got to put a stop to it and let them know that you cannot do that, because this is the reason why, as I saw you earlier, this is the reason why we're able to make $35, $40 million a year. You have to be true and be professional. It's part of the job. I understand, like I said, being frustrated one night and not answering a question and making a point if a guy did something dirty, grimy, or disrespectful. Other than that, you have a responsibility to answer the questions, answer them like a pro. You can be short and precise to somebody that you're not cool with, or somebody that's trying to attack you or kill you. We can do that. There's ways to do that. But next question, all this time later, is not how we do it in this league, and it's unprofessional, and I can't co-sign it as much as I love Russell Westbrook.
Transitioning from Russell Westbrook and Oklahoma City Thunder and Portland to Denver and San Antonio. This series is notched at 2-2. I'm at a struggle trying to decide, do I give San Antonio all the credit in the world because of how they've looked, considering that not much was expected from them as a 7th seed? Or do we look at the Denver Nuggets and say this is a young team that was down 1-0, tied the series, down 2-1, that tied the series, and look at these young guys and say they're a bigger threat than we thought they were? How should we look at this series?
Well, going in, surprisingly, I picked San Antonio to win the series. I think both teams are extremely well coached. I think Denver has done an outstanding job all season long, and the season in a 2 seed. The problem with Denver, in my opinion, why I picked San Antonio, is when you come down to playoff basketball, you need a guy that I could throw the ball to, forget about what's on the clipboard, and he's going to make a play either for himself or for others. I wasn't sure that the Denver Nuggets have that guy. Now, when they won the game, that guy has shown up, whether it's been Jamal Murray, whether it's been the Joker, they've shown up and made plays. When they've lost, they've been thoroughly outplayed. I still pick San Antonio, but give Denver a lot of credit for going into San Antonio and winning. Now the problem is you don't want to relax, because the San Antonio Spurs are more than capable to coming into your building, they've proven it, and win a game. It's going to be a great series, and I think it's far from over.
Mark Jackson, let's transition to the Eastern Conference, because obviously this is more intriguing than it has been in recent memory, with Milwaukee, the #1 seed in the entire NBA, looking the way they've looked, with Toronto and Kawhi Leonard putting on the show, with Kyrie Irving and the boys in Boston reminding us they're not going anywhere, and with Philadelphia handling their business with a questionably healthy Joel Embiid. What have you peeled away from the Eastern Conference and watching these players? What's the #1 thing you've been watching for?
Well, Milwaukee has been great, and I don't want to run away and say they're clearly the best team, because they have a team on the opposite side of the floor that's cooperating. Detroit is in over their head. But the Milwaukee Bucks have looked like a complete basketball team, and you imagine getting Brogdon back and what he does to the depth, to the toughness, to the shooting ability, to the competitive spirit. They're a different basketball team. Toronto looks good. Kawhi Leonard looks incredible. I thought he was spectacular last night. And you look at the Celtics, what veteran teams do, is get rid of the opposition as quick as possible. They certainly did that. They're healthy other than Marcus Smart. I think they're doing a better job of accepting their roles and playing. Gordon Hayward is playing much better, which you alluded to earlier today. It's a difference when all of a sudden I'm putting you in because you have the ability to take over games and be one of the best players, as opposed to I'm putting you in because you're my guy, what it can be perceived as the rest of the team. They're playing great basketball and clicking on all cylinders right now. With Philadelphia, like you said, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, so you agreed with me what I said earlier in the year when I talked about Gordon Hayward clearly wasn't ready, and I think Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens made a huge mistake in inserting him immediately into the starting lineup to start of the season, because I think that fragmented the team to some degree, and they're just getting it back together. Is that your take?
I totally agree. I understand what Brad Stevens did in inserting him into the starting lineup, but I also understand the impact it had throughout that lineup. If I'm Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, I'm sitting there, or Marcus Smart or whoever, I'm sitting there thinking, or Terry Rozier, I'm thinking, I'm better than this dude. And rightfully so, those guys were better early on in the season. Now today, right now, that's a different story because Gordon Hayward looks healthy and whole and playing much better. But he struggled early on, and there was no reason to put him in the lineup. So I understand from Brad Stevens' standpoint why he did it, playing a long play as opposed to the short play. But I also understand, being a former player, the frustration and how it can drain your spirit watching a guy that doesn't deserve to be playing over you, because you're not thinking, well, in April or May or June, it'll put us in a better position. You're thinking, I'm getting jerked right now.
When you're looking at the top 4 teams in the East, Toronto, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Boston, and give me your top 4 players and in what order you want the ball in their hands in the last 3 minutes of a game. Because I think that's what the East is going to come down to, Mark Jackson.
That's a great question, and it's a tough question. I will say number one, without question, and it may be a shocker to some and maybe not to others, would be Kyrie Irving. The reason why is because I need a guy that I can put the ball in his hands, and he's proven to not be afraid of the lights, not today, but when they get brightest. Kyrie Irving has made one of the all-time great shots and plays in the history of this game when it mattered most. And we know the shot I'm talking about. So I'm going with him and his ability to play isolation, get his own shot, make plays, shoot the basketball, his complete package on the offensive end. I would probably, in my second pick, this is crazy, I'd go with Kawhi Leonard because of his ability to shoot the mid-range, get to his spot, and elevate. Use strength. Again, a finals MVP, so I would go with him. The third guy I would go with, obviously, would be the Greek Freak. Antetokounmpo, the things he does offensively, the way you cannot contain him one-on-one, his strength, his size, his length. Not the only concern is his ability to shoot, but he gets to his spots. Wherever he wants on the floor, he puts pressure on your defense, so he would be the third guy. And then the fourth guy would be Joel Embiid. But I don't like how they don't take advantage of the matchup that they should. You look at the game they just won against the Nets. It turned when Jared Dudley goes out of the game, Jimmy Butler goes out of the game, and all of a sudden they force feed Joel Embiid. You have to have the mentality. And I'm making sure I'm putting my best player in the best position to take over this series. And that's what they did. Mm-hmm. He got angry. He posted up, demanded double teams, made plays. If they didn't double, he took advantage and scored. So he's the guy that's a complete package on the offensive end. I don't mind him shoot threes, but there has to be a steady diet of posting him up saying, basically, you can't guard him. There's nothing you can do about it.
Couple of more questions before I let you get on out of here, Mark Jackson. Number one, you're enjoying your job. There's no question about it. I'm not enjoying the fact that you're still not being interviewed as a head coaching candidate for an NBA team. Is that on your mind at all? Do you even think about it, or are you so happy at your job it doesn't matter? What's the situation with Mark Jackson these days?
I'm a guy with tremendous trust and faith. That's what's mine is mine. I look forward to one day coaching in the NBA or coaching again. I really embraced it. I enjoyed it. It was a time of my life. I'm totally at peace with the platform that ESPN, ABC has given me. I'm having a time of my life working with Jeff Van Gundy and Mike Green. Those guys are incredible. But I look forward to coaching one day. And I'm not frustrated because somebody will pull the trigger and make the right decision and decides that I should be their next head coach. I'm totally at peace with where I am. I'm excited about what the future holds, but I trust God and know that it'll all work out.
But Mark, but as a coach, do you have a preference? And I don't mean that, I'm not going to put you on the spot about a team. That's not where I'm going. I'm saying some guys, you get these teams, you got to rebuild it from scratch, which is what you did in Golden State, okay? And they do it that way. Other guys get to inherit a team with a superstar, at least one of them, already on the squad, and they go from there. What kind of situation is ideal for Mark Jackson to coach against someday?
It's ideal to just be in a suit and tie, inspiring guys and put them in position to win. I don't think I would minimize myself to a guy that is a guy that would take a team and build something and minimize myself to that. If you give me a team that's already ready to win, well, we're going to win. And if you have to build it, well, we'll build it, and then ultimately we win. I just need the opportunity, and it's proven that it will take place. I was given the opportunity. I capitalized on it. I enjoyed it, and it ran its course. I'm excited and look forward to the next opportunity. But it doesn't matter either way. We've seen great coaches respond in both situations.
My last question to you involves Draymond Green, a player that you drafted, has a lot of love for you, still expresses a lot of love for you. I'm interested in knowing what you think the future holds for him, because anytime we talk about change that ultimately may come to Golden State, his name comes up. Obviously, he signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. That's who's representing him now. The belief is that ultimately he's going to be in line to get some money. If not from Golden State, he'll end somewhere else. What is the ideal situation for Draymond Green? What is it about him that we're missing that we don't appreciate enough? Because clearly he ain't Steph, Clay, or Kevin Durant.